Okay, The Bear by Anton Chekhov. Yesterday we discussed about Anton Chekhov's The Bear as a lesser known play. It is not a very popular play like The Cherry Orchard by Anton Chekhov. Cherry Orchard is well known. The Cherry Orchard is well known because it discussed about something very common about the world, discussed something very common about the transformation of Russia and all. So this was not rather noted by many because perhaps that this is a single act play. This is a single act play. It's not a long play, right? So there I say it's a lesser known play. You're not to mention them in your answers, but it is good to know about the background, right? When you know about the background, you have kind of a depth in your answer. So getting an S pass is something very important, but rather than that, if you can get an A pass with kind of deep knowledge, with kind of positive attitude, positive remark about the subject's objective, you become a winner. Therefore, please add all these little information in your answers, but try not to overload the answers with writer's background information, writer's biography. If it is not necessary, you're not going to include writer's biography. There are certain places that we have to discuss about biographies, all right, especially in certain poetry. We had been talking about a farce, the qualities of a farce. It's a light dramatic work. There is no much complications in the play. In the script as well, as I said, that there is no much of a story to tell, right? For example, woman cries over the death of the husband. Woman is leading a mourning time here. But in the meantime, we find someone dashes in and that person rather grumbles here, asking the money back. And ultimately, they fall in love. We don't find that much of serious plot situations, right? But in the second part, you find, even though it is not a serious dramatic play, it gets improbable story situations, plot situations. These things cannot happen. Now, yesterday, people communicated with me and they said certain examples like a person who hates Popova ultimately falls in love with Popova. It can happen in the world. We all know that the world is kind of a different place nowadays. But in the case of, when we consider the plot situation in this particular drama, Smirnov can never fall in love with Popova. I never expected Smirnov to fall in love with Popova at the very beginning, at the very first reading. But it happens, right? And again, Popova brings a gun. Popova brings a gun, but she doesn't know how to shoot. The one who is to be shot is the one who is going to teach how to shoot. With all these things, we find the situations are improbable. Probable means can happen. Improbable means cannot happen. Okay, improbable plot situations. Then I say, in this play, we find exaggerated characters. Characters are not perhaps from the real life situations. All right. For example, in traditional plays in Sri Lanka like Maname and Singabahu, their dialogues are different. Dialogues are elevated. The way they walk, the way they talk are different. And sometimes certain actions are hyperbolically, okay, hyperbolically presented. For example, if the marriage happens, okay, marriage happens. It's not kind of a general attitude that a marriage can happen in a traditional play. It has a lot of celebration, lot of dance, lot of color around. With all these, we find that particular incident is upgraded, hyperbolically upgraded. So incidents are upgraded, and again we find that characters are upgraded. I feel that it is best to say that it is exaggeration in characters. If not, yeah, you have sent a message, I think. Okay, Aswika, sorry. No worries. Yeah, I'm continuing. Then I said it's a slapstick. In this drama, we find slapstick comedy. Comedy is also categorized. You little ones are not supposed to go for that particular depth of analyzing types of comedy. Comedies of different types, like There is dry humor. Okay, there is humor, dry humor. All these are created with different techniques. So in this one, Anton Chekhov uses slapstick comedy. In farcical plays, we use slapstick comedy. So slapstick comedy means, as I said yesterday, it is physical comedy. Mostly you involve with violent action, fall off, you break off things, sometimes you break things, sometimes you fight, you jump over another person, jump over a fence, you fall from a big building. Okay, this comedy is seen in perhaps in traditional comedy plays like Charlie Chaplin movies. In Sri Lankan typical comedy movies, we can find it like the actors Bandhu Samarasinghe, like. So they show a lot of physical comedy. We call it slapstick comedy. Then obviously the next point is important. Absurd. It's not really natural, right? Absurd means odd. An empty show. And a mockery. Mockery means, mocking at means we are laughing at something. In this play also, we are going to laugh at something. We laugh at some community in this particular context. So we are going to study them further in the next slides. So this is also another question. The point that I discussed earlier was something very important. It can come as an essay type question, right? And this is also another essay type question. Yes, Hafsa, you have asked a question. What is a tragicomedy? So what is a tragicomedy? In traditional theater, we found two major genres called tragedy and comedy. Tragedy means the drama ends up with a sad note, whereas comedy ends up with a happy note. Comedy does not always say that there is humor in that. Okay, humor can be there, but it does not mean the comedy shows that we find on television these days. It is not the meaning of that particular genre. Okay, it has a happy ending. Now, in Greek and Roman theater, in the future, if you get a chance to study, we found tragic playwrights and comic playwrights. Comic playwrights means that they did not have, rather, in certain plays, we did not find much of comedy, but such drama ended up with a happy note, right? Happy ending, like. What do you mean by a tragicomedy? I'm answering what Asfa asks. It says there is amalgamation of tragedy and comedy in that particular plot. Amalgamation, mixing up of tragedy and comedy. Then I feel personally, tragicomedy is much realistic rather than tragedy separately and comedy separately. For example, if you talk about your own lives, some absurd things you do can be called comedy. Sometimes you perform those absurd things because of your psychological confusion. Otherwise, you had kind of bad weather in your mind. All right. Then, yeah, you do something, but when you analyze that, you find that's kind of very tragic story in your particular life. Suppose that a girl runs shouting and dancing on the road. Okay, a girl from your school runs, having loose hair and running like a mad person, shouting and singing. What is the initial response of the audience? We all laugh. We all laugh. We never analyze that, we all laugh. All right, that's the first response. But later on, you come to know that that girl had a reason to run like that. Her total life was a tragedy. She went mad because of that tragic incident. And perhaps parents caused that tragic incidents. Adults caused, teachers caused that tragic incident. But no one needs to bear up the consequences, results. She herself individually bears up the results of her life, results of the consequences that she got in life. She runs. We laugh. Okay. Then we find, if we carefully analyze, under that particular humorous portion, we find undercurrently a tragic story is running. Okay, this is something we should understand, right? Basically, our lives are tragicomic. Now, if you go for Popova's character, otherwise in this particular drama, Popova, Smirnov, Nikolaev, even Luca, when you analyze all these characters, we find certain tragicomic aspects. So this is a farce, but we can analyze this drama as a tragicomedy as well. Why not? Because Popova's actions are totally comic. But why do you think that she rather acts in an absurd way like that? There is a reason, right? There are reasons rather than that, because she had been cheated and she had been pushed to be an upper class woman, rather focusing more on the rules and regulations of upper class, decorum of upper class, and pressured, and she has much of confusion what to do in the next step. Having all these compressed in mind, she puts up certain absurd behaviors. Then, if you get a question to analyze Popova's character as a tragicomic character, then of course you can rather answer that in that way. Initially, we find comedy in her, but there are reasons for her comic action. All right. Then I fall into, I come to Smirnov's character. What are the comic parts of Smirnov's character? A lot. For example, the absurd behavior, violent, exaggerative behavior, and bear-like behavior, and he's still single, right? He's still single. Being single, that he says that I rejected this number, these number of girls rejected me as well. We initially laugh at that. But what is the tragic part of that? Lack of satisfaction, right? Lack of emotional, physical satisfaction of a man. And ultimately that he has found financial downfall as well. And he has given debt to people, being good person. Otherwise that he helps people, but people do not help him back. In the analysis we find, yes, he is comic initially, but what is the tragic part of that? So think about that. Thank you, Buddha, for bringing up that question. If you have questions of that nature, please forward them, right? I will answer them being in my capacity, right? I'm not a veteran on this subject. I know things, but there can be many things that you know that you like to share. I will provide answers in my capacity, right? Then the next one is irony. Even yesterday, during yesterday's discussions also, we discussed about irony. Irony is of three types: verbal, situational, and dramatic irony. Now, if you get a question to answer, otherwise analyze humor in this play, you are not supposed to write, here the person laughs, here the person falls off. When he touches the chair, it breaks off. Yeah, you can tell them, but your answer, in that answer, you do not have that much of structure, logic. You tell the story. Then what is your analysis part? There should be your analysis part in that. How? How are you going to explain that? If it is irony, otherwise, if it analyze how humor is created in this play, then you have to get the technical support. In this play, I find overuse of irony to evoke humor. This particular discussion is important for you to analyze humor poems as well, right? I always see people just say in upside down, this is this, this is this, he is like this, people say like this, people call about, people rather address him like this. He looks at people in this way. I find you tell the story again in your answer. There is no technical analysis. If you technically analyze how humor is created in that particular poem, you have to adhere to techniques that can evoke humor. Then what are the techniques? First is verbal irony. Irony created through words. Like in this play, we find, softer sex. Okay, I tell something, but I mean something else. If I say, you are the best set of students I have ever met in my life, Do I mean that? I mean the opposite. Okay. I tell something, I mean something opposite, right? Some will say, I like him. I like him. I like him, but I like him, it's opposite. It can create humor because what you say is not what you mean. Your voice has some sort of difference, otherwise contrast. Then the second one is situational irony. Yesterday, you can rather see them in the videos. I, in deep levels, I rather explain these technical devices. Like situational irony means you expect something, but something completely different happens. In this play, you find one who comes in asking for debt falls in love with the person. You expect something, but totally different thing happens. In Sinhala, we call that, I'm sorry about using my mother tongue in front of my Muslim girls and boys, but I think that they can understand them. වඳින්න ගිය දේවාලේ ඉහේ කඩන් වැටෙනවා. Right? වඳින්න යන්නේ දේවාලේ ඉහේ කඩන් වැටෙනවා. Something like that. Okay? There we find Popova hates Smirnov. The same Popova falls in love with Smirnov. All right. Even the gun incident, right? She brings a gun, but she doesn't know how to shoot. The other one rather helps. The one who is to be shot, the victim, is the one who is going to teach how to shoot. These are places where humor is created. Okay. These are technical ways that humor can be created. Okay. For example, softer sex. Likewise, with words, we can create humor. With situation irony, we can create humor. And more importantly, the third one, dramatic irony. What is dramatic irony? I explain dramatic irony in this way. There should be three parties at least. We'll say, Popova and Smirnov kiss on the stage. Right? Popova and Smirnov know that they're in love. Otherwise, they have kind of a connection by now. Audience knows that they have fallen in love. Luca, who went out to bring an army of people, does not know that they are in love. Okay. Now again, three parties: audience, Smirnov and Popova, and Luca. Here, in this particular context, Luca is victimized. He doesn't know what's going on. So, audience rather expects, what if Luca comes now? What will be his reaction? He will be amazed, right? He will be flabbergasted. Like, similar thing happens. Audience suspense ultimately turns out to be laughter. Right? Luca comes. He sees this particular action of these two people. One's enemies now in love. So, dramatic irony is effectively utilized at that place. That is one place where humor is created. Right? So, dramatic irony is one very good example that can create humor in a literary text. Now, we'll say in Kagwa's story, we find situational irony, even dramatic irony is there. So when you answer these, when you rather tackle these poems also, if you get humor as an option, think about the techniques that you can utilize in analyzing your answer. Okay. And what is this word in red? Incongruity. Incongruity. The word appears little harsh and tough, but learn that word as a piece of new vocabulary. If you do not know that only, incongruity means mismatch. Sometimes mismatch of attitude, behavior, mismatch of your, we'll say, words. So, incongruity is the element that we find in all these ironical situations. Just for example, we'll say, we'll say, yes, I'm reading your messages. Sorry. Yeah. For example, an incongruous situation. Suppose that you see your teacher is running on the road. Can you just imagine the situation? Even though the teacher is a physical instructor or otherwise kind of PT teacher, fit for running wearing a sari like gives you kind of mismatch. So, ගුරුන් දුවනු දැකීමත් එක හතර හිනාවලින් එකක්නේ. අපි අහලා තියෙනවා නේද? හිනාවලින් එකක්. So suppose that I run on the road, then it gives laughter. All right, it creates laughter, it creates humor, mismatch, right? Now in upside down we get incongruity. So his behavior is incongruous. So it gives situational irony and it creates laughter. So remember, irony and incongruity are utilized effectively in humorous plays, humorous novels, and humorous poems as well. Now, another example for incongruity, we expect Mr. World to come to this class from perhaps America. We'll say, no Mr. World in Sri Lanka. So he comes, right? You are excited, right? You have kind of excitement and you're waiting for him to come and address. He comes to your school and takes a microphone, kind of a 7-footer. You're rather excited to see him. And you see him as a great personality. He gets a microphone and says, "Good morning." His attitude does not match with the voice. Hopefully you understand what I say. So that evokes laughter in the audience. Even though we do not laugh at the person, automatically it comes out, right? And again, you find this in certain places. Men wear women's outfits. Okay, ultimately we come to know that it was a man in woman's outfit. Okay, sometimes you wear something that does not match. Okay, so with these we find laughter can be created. Now, in this drama, we find certain incongruous situations like Popova clearly knows that the husband is unfaithful. And she clearly knows that husband can't see you. Only the spirit is there. According to Christianity, they release the spirit. She starts talking to the spirit. But she knows that spirit cannot rather perhaps communicate with her. But she speaks. Such situations are incongruous. And there's another place which Smirnoff highlights. Yes, miss, I see that you're rather so worried about your husband's death, but you have not forgotten to powder your face. That's really incongruous, right? Then when that is highlighted, audience starts laughing. Yes, Hafsa, he's a misogynist. Exactly. Very good. Thank you. So let me finish this discussion. Irony, otherwise humorous effects, how humor is created through techniques. So irony is utilized, and incongruity in actions, behaviors, and sometimes attitudes of people can evoke humor. This is about Russia. I'm going to talk about certain important points about the society of Russia. We are not going to write all these things excessively, but it is really important for us to know in which year, in which era that he is born. So this says he's a playwright, storyteller, and I don't know whether I have included that. Yes, he's a physician, a doctor as well, right? And born in 1860. If it is England, we call it Victorian era in England. But if I consider about Russia, Russian Revolution is brewing now. Russian Viplava is brewing. It's happening now. It's undercurrently people are getting ready for that. Okay, we know that it had different steps of revolutions. I'm talking about 1900 revolution. So this is something that I need you to know. Serfdom in Russia. Okay, perhaps this is kind of a new word for you. Perhaps you know this. Serf is almost like a slave. In Russia, in Africa, we call him a slave. In America, we call him a slave. Serf has a little difference from a slave. Okay, serf is also kind of a person that you can buy. Have you ever imagined that a human can be bought, like a dog that you buy? For labor, you could buy people, right? You can own people. So remember about this idea because Anton Chekhov had a history to serfdom. He was a serf. Serfdom means like king to kingdom. Serf, Vahala, Vahaloke is called serfdom, right? So now when you read this, you can identify serf is an unfree peasant. Unfree peasant means a farmer in Russia, right? So when the land is sold, that you're also sold. Okay, you cannot get yourself free. Historically could be sold only with the land to which they were attached. Unlike African slave, when the land is sold, that you are to be sold. Otherwise, if you are to be sold, so if someone comes to buy you, individually, you cannot be sold. You are attached to the land. So this sort of a concept was there in Sri Lanka. This is not the exact concept. In Sri Lankan feudal society in the past, Banda in Walave Banda, Walave Hamu and Banda. Walave Hamu had a big house. Banda had a little house somewhere in the corner of the Walave grounds. He did not have his own land, right? Okay, suppose that there is no place for him to live as well. There is kind of inevitable connection between Banda and Walave. Okay, obviously they are connected because they interdepend with each other. For example, Walave Hamu has lands, he has labor. Okay, so land and labor are exchanged, bartered. Okay, if Banda is not there, Walave Hamu cannot do much. If Walave Hamu is not there, Banda is not to survive. This sort of interdependence is created in Sri Lanka. I rather brought up some very familiar example to you. You see them in teledramas sometimes. So apply that theory to this one as well, serfdom in Russia. So I have rather mentioned the links as well. So you can, if you want, I'm going to send them. If you want, you can read more about that. Not to write, okay, but to know about things. To understand certain characters in the play, understand why Anton Chekhov designs these sort of characters, you should know the history. Okay, Chekhov's grandfather was a serf. That's something noteworthy. Now I come back to Russian Revolution, not revolution, transformation of economy. Now we discussed about transformation of economy in Japan in the previous session, from pre-war culture to post-war culture, how yo-yo transformed into Sodo Unsu-like people. Okay, then first, we all know that in any country, agriculture is the first. To continue agriculture, we need labor and land, like I mentioned about Walave Hamu and Banda. Labor is provided through working class, land through landowning community, right? Now, this interdependence always moves on in a society. There we find laborers, otherwise serfs, never get their freedom because they have no economic option. Only option is to depend on the landowners. But in the world, as a next step, there comes karmikaranaya, if not industrialization. Suppose there's a garment factory put up in Banda's family, Banda's house, buy Banda's house, Banda's village, we'll say. So Banda has another option now. Without going to Hamu Mahatya, Banda can go to the garment factory and work and earn good money. Even though garment factory exploits you, get hard work from you, they pay you. They pay you properly. Therefore, economic option එකක් ඇතිවීම ඉතා වැදගත් රටකට. I'm not rather considering about industrialization and its benefits and all. Yeah, it's good, but there are certain problems as well in industrialization, right? Think about this. Now, I need you to focus on this one. Landowning community retain superior in the society. When laborers stop working to them and when laborers go to industries, what happened to landowning community? They are unable to continue with their agriculture. They are unable to continue with their agriculture because they don't have laborers. And labor force is not to do agriculture anymore. They divert themselves to industrialization. There we find sort of downfall in agricultural landowning community. They find it difficult to maintain. All right. This is not the only reason. There are many other reasons why upper class, otherwise landowning community in countries fall off. This is one example. Okay. So there we find this discussion is there in Gamperali as well. If you read Martin Vikramasinghe's Gamperali, we find a lot of similarities between Anton Chekhov and Martin Vikramasinghe. Very, very close similarities, right? So if you have read Gamperali, you can find these sort of situations in that as well. Upper class landowning community falls off because of other economic options that labor community finds. Remember that. Then how do you think that it is attached to the drama? In the drama also we find a definition of land-owning community represented through Popova, Nikolaev, and Smirnov, and some other people who have got debt from Smirnov. Then the topic is fate of the land-owning community. When their economy finds downfall, sorry, their agricultural work, otherwise their production from land finds downfall, their financial downfall is inevitable. So we mention it as financial bankruptcy in upper class landowning community in Russia. Bankruptcy means financial downfall. In single we call that bankolodbhav. Not only that, it is noted that upper class landowning community, mainly because of social changes, found emotional bankruptcy as well. They needed someone else's support to upgrade their spirits. They were downhearted. Okay, basically two, financial downfall and emotional downfall. I really want you to remember these because the landowning community that we discuss in this play provides very good examples for this particular concept. Then we'll apply. Let's apply these qualities, these particular norms that we learned just a while ago to the characters separately. We'll take Popova. I'm sorry. Let's take Popova. I'm sorry about that interruption. Popova. Do you find Popova has no money now? Popova is bankrupt. Is she bankrupt? I expect rather response from the audience. Is she bankrupt? She's running out of money. Yes. Okay, how do you say that she is not Does she have money? Does she have money? How many times she says that I can't pay now and wait until this person comes and all? How many? Now I get kind of responses that she is not poor. Is she poor or she is not poor by now in the play? Somehow or the other, she has a financial confusion, financial problem. What is that financial problem? Perhaps because of the husband's death, a woman finds it difficult to manage life. It's connected to female gender. Give me 1 minute. How many times in the play, Popova says that I can't give money. I don't have money. I wait until my steward comes, my representative comes. Here we find, even though she does not tell it directly, she has a financial confusion. And if we rather add that to Nikolaev's character, then why do you think that Nikolaev gets debt? He finds his financial downfall. Somehow or the other, in secret, he gets money. Otherwise, he doesn't tell that to the wife. Okay, he gets money, he gets debt. Somehow or the other, we find that these two people have kind of a financial confusion. And again, not paying back that money is also another very good example. What about Smirnov? Smirnov directly complains that he doesn't have money. Now, if he does not pay back, that he is in trouble. Further, he says, I went to many people asking money back, but they were not able to pay back. All right. So this is kind of a representation that we find in the play Upper Class, and how upper class finds financial confusion in Russia at this particular era. This is well displayed in another play by Anton Chekhov. It is The Cherry Orchard. Upper class is not strong enough to hold their grip for their lands. They sell them. Lower class people who earn money going to industries buy them. Okay, this is kind of a popular, very popular information that we find in Anton Chekhov's plays. Popova's rejection to give money displays that she has a confusion in money. Perhaps that she doesn't have money now. And Nikolaev was a debtor. Smirnov had been a debtor and is a debtor now. And many other people, he says, he mentions different names from the society. They were not able to pay back. So even though this information is not directly said, this is kind of indirect information. In literature, there are two types of information: direct information and indirect information. You find another name for that: implied information. It implies that upper class finds its financial downfall. What about emotional downfall? Do you find these characters have kind of sane mentality? Popova, emotionally down. Smirnov, confused, emotionally confused. Nikolaev was not contented. He had a beautiful wife at home, but he started having connections with other women. And that he had a kind of financial confusion as well. With all these, we find upper class represented in the play display financial confusion and next emotional confusion. All right, financial bankruptcy and emotional bankruptcy. So then if there is a question to answer, Anton Chekhov's The Bear is a social criticism. It represents the society. Then you have to mention them, right? It represents social classes and the exact appearance of the social classes, psychological conditions, emotions, and their relationships, right? So it's important to relate it to the society when you get a question of that nature. So if you have questions, please send them. Otherwise, you can talk. I have not muted you here. Then another question that can come from this area is a title. This appeared once, title of the play. Okay, the bear, the title. Remember, the bear, when you answer that question, think about these. The bear, a biological bear, and a bear-like human characters. You have to differentiate these two. Okay, here in this play, in this particular slide, I analyze the biological characteristics of a bear, biological characteristics of a natural bear. So, in the first, we find spontaneous. Again, guys, before I come to this one, use of animal imagery in literary work. Now, in your syllabus, you find different animal imagery, starting with the nightingale, right? Nightingale is known for its romantic, melancholic voice. That is kind of a classical allusion, comes from Shakespeare sometimes. It's there in Romeo and Juliet as well. So with that particular melancholic, romantic voice, Nightingale's character, Nightingale, the bird, becomes a suitable character to fix in a story like The Nightingale and the Rose. So the bear is also an animal imagery used mostly in literature. And the bear has kind of political definition also connected to Russia. I'm not going to go for that deep level anyway, right? And again, animal imagery convey different attitudes sometimes. Suppose lion, tiger, and the bear. So a boy comes to your class and the teacher comments, he's like a lion. You get kind of a noble feeling about that person. And another person comes, the teacher looks at him and says, looks like a tiger. You get kind of a comparison, right? You kind of low in ranking, like lion and the tiger. Tiger is less, decency is compared there actually. Otherwise, vulgarity is compared. Then I come to the next one. Third person comes. The teacher says, looks like a bear. It gives kind of downgraded sort of definition. So remember, in literature, there are animal imagery. You can use that term actually, animal imagery, and they have different definitions as well. Okay, then I come back to the slide. The bear suggests something spontaneous. Spontaneous means effortless. Does not think twice like. Effortlessly, without giving rather way to brain, with emotions you work like, right? Anger, love, and hatred are attached to the bear. And think about the character, otherwise characters connected to the animal imagery, the bear. Mostly you believe that it is Smirnoff only. No, many other characters are there that can be compared, even Popova is compared to the bear at different analysis levels. And second one, the bear is powerful, aggressive, dominant. When you look at these, we find that they are well connected to Smirnoff's character at the beginning. And you can just think about the characters, the Popova's character in the latter part of the drama as well. How fiercely she becomes aggressive, how she starts dominating the other. Okay, how powerful she is. It's kind of ironic because woman gender is not supposed to become powerful in traditional societies, but she gets the upper hand and controls that bear-like man now. Okay, and bear is single of vulgarity. Vulgarity means less decent. There's kind of very serious definition as well. Somehow the other, bear is less decent. Okay, do you find that he is less decent? Smirnoff is less decent? Obviously, right? He doesn't know how to maintain himself. Basically, we find that he's not, otherwise he fails in emotional control. People who are not with good emotional control can be called a person with aggressive nature. So we all have it, right? Even I have it. Emotional control is very little sometimes. So these are things that we have to upgrade. Okay, then The bear represents different qualities of the characters of the play, remember, though it refers to Smirnov primarily, yet it can be well fitted to some other characters in the play like Popova, can be Nikolaev as well because his feelings, because of his behavior like vulgarity. And again, dominance is obviously seen. He keeps the wife at home and goes out. Okay, even with the absence of the husband, even though the husband is absent, still she feels the dominance of the husband. Okay, primarily, basically, 90% I say that the title is connected to Smirnov, but we can refer to the other characters as well. Okay, so that is a last question that I discuss from this area. Any question, any area that you want me to highlight, discuss?
It's just not right, Mrs. You let yourself fall to pieces. The cook and the maid have gone berry picking. Every living creature is out in the sunshine enjoying himself, even your cat now. He's out there trying to catch himself a bird. And here you sit all day long in the house like some kind of nun. That's no fun. You listen to what I'm saying now. It's been a whole year since you left the house.
I shall never leave this house. Why should I? My life is over. He's dead and buried, and so am I, dead and buried within these four walls. We're both dead.
Ah, never heard the like. Your husband's dead. Well, God bless him. You've mourned him good and proper. Now it's time to move on. Can't sit there wearing black and crying for the rest of your life. My old lady died too, a while back. Cried for a month and that was it. There's no need to sit around for years singing hymns. She wasn't worth it. Ah, you haven't visited your neighbors in months. You don't go out. You tell us not to let anybody in. We're all living here like spiders in the dark. You'll excuse the expression. My livery coat's got mothballs in it. Well, fine if there's nobody in the village worth seeing. But the countryside is swarming with eligible young men. There's a regiment in the next village. All those good-looking young officers melt in your mouth, most of them. And there's a dance every Saturday night, and the band gives a concert every afternoon. Oh, Mrs., take a look at yourself. You're still a luscious young thing. You're still beautiful. You can go out and enjoy life. But a pretty face won't last forever, you know. You wait. 10 years from now, you'll want to go swarming after those young officers, and it'll be too late.
I must ask you never to talk to me like that again. When my husband died, life lost all meaning for me. You know that. I may look like I'm alive, but I'm not. I swore I'd shut myself up here and wear black till the day I die, didn't I? And I will. He'll see how much I loved him. Oh, I know he treated me badly. I don't have to tell you that. He was mean and even unfaithful, but I intend to be faithful to the grave and show him what real love means.
That's just a lot of talk. Yeah, you'd do better to take a walk. Or harness up Toby, go visit the neighbors. Well, Mrs., what is it? Oh, for God's sake, what's the matter?
Toby. Oh, he used to love Toby so. He'd ride all over the neighborhood on it.
So I'll be swiping. Try to understand these situations, right?
The nerve of some people. Why must people be so difficult? Why can't they just leave me alone? may have to join a nunnery after all. Ooh, I wonder what kind of nun I'd make.
You dingbat, stop trying to lock me out of here! Hear me up! Ah, Madam! Let me introduce myself. Grigory Stepanovich Smirnov, Field Artillery, retired. I own a place over in the next county. Sorry to disturb you, but this is important.
What can I do for you?
I had the pleasure of knowing your late husband, and as it happens, he left me 2 IOUs. The total comes to 1,200 rubles. Now, I have a mortgage payment due tomorrow, and I have to ask you, madam, to pay up, and I'm afraid I need the money today.
1,200 rubles?
Mm-hmm.
What did my husband owe you the money for?
I sold him a couple of loads of oats.
Luca, you do not forget what I told you. Make sure Toby gets his extra oats. If my husband owed you the money, then of course I will pay it. But you will have to excuse me. I do not have any cash on me today. But my manager gets back from town the day after tomorrow, and he'll see that you get paid. But today, I'm afraid I cannot help you. It's been exactly 7 months since my husband died, and I'm in a sad mood. I'm in no condition to talk about money.
And I'm in a sad mood too, because if I don't meet my mortgage payment tomorrow, they'll foreclose on my property. I'll lose my shirt.
You'll have your money the day after tomorrow.
No, I need the money today, not the day after tomorrow.
Excuse me, I've already said I cannot pay you.
And I've already said that I can't wait till the day after tomorrow.
Well, what can I do? I don't have the money.
That means you won't pay me?
It means I can't pay you.
I see. Is that your final word?
That's my final word.
You've made up your mind?
I've made up my mind.
Thank you very much. I won't forget this. Am I supposed to take all this lying down? On my way here, I met my accountant. Why are you always so down in the dumps? He asks me. I have the money today? Fine. I'll be right here. Look, don't you believe that I have a mortgage payment due tomorrow? You think I'm joking?
I asked you not to shout. You are not in a stable.
I didn't ask you about a stable. What I asked you was, don't you believe that I have a mortgage payment due tomorrow?
You haven't the faintest idea of how to behave in a lady's presence.
I do so know how to behave in a lady's presence.
No, you do not. You are ill-mannered and vulgar. No gentleman would behave like this in front of a lady.
Oh, well, excuse me, and just how would he speak in front of a lady? In French? Oh, madame, je vous prie. How charmed I am to know that you reject to pay me my money. Oh, pardon, I seem to be upsetting you. Lovely weather we are having. Oh, my, don't you look lovely in black?
You are being very stupid and not funny.
Stupid and not funny. I don't know how to behave in a lady's presence? Woman, I have seen more ladies in my time than you have seen sparrows in yours. I have fought 3 duels because of ladies. I have walked out on 12 ladies and 9 ladies have walked out on me, so there. Oh, I used to be an idiot. Got crushes on them, sweet-talked, cast my pearls before the... Well, bow, click my heels, fall in love, suffer, sigh in the moonlight, freeze up, melt into puddles. I did it all. I could rattle on for hours about women's rights. I spent half my life hanging around women, but not anymore. No, sir, no, thank you very much. No more wool over my eyes. I've had it. Dark eyes, red lips, dimples in the cheeks, moonlight, sighs of passion. No, sir. I wouldn't give you 2 cents for any of it now. Present company accepted, of course. But all women are pretentious.
You are now. Will you please leave me alone and get out of Luca, will you please show this gentleman out?
Please, sir, leave. The lady asked you to. She doesn't want...
Can you shut up? Who do you think you're talking to? I'll make a tough salad out of you.
I'm dying.
Oh, am I mad? Am I mad? Am I mad?
They've all left the house. There's nobody here. I can't breathe.
Will you please leave?
Can't you be a little more polite?
Peasant.
Oh, perfect.
Bear, you vulgar bear. Monster, you radical.
What did you call me?
I said you were a bear.
And just who said you could insult me like that?
That's right. I am insulting you. What of it? You think I'm afraid of you?
You think just because you're some sort of romantic heroine that gives you the right to insult me with impunity? Is that it? Oh no. This is a matter for the field of honor.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Time to choose weapons.
And just because you think you have big fists and a bull neck, you think I'm afraid of you? You... Bear!
To the field of honor. Nobody insults me like that, not even a woman.
Bear,
It's about time we got rid of all prejudices about only men needing to defend themselves on the field of honor. If it's equality you want, then it's equality you get. I challenge you to a duel.
You want to fight a duel?
Right this minute.
Oh, good, let's fight.
Right this minute.
Right this minute. My husband had a set of pistols. Wait right here. I'll be right back.
Smith and Wesson revolver. And I definitely like this one. Definitely. So she is dimple, I still like her. I'm almost ready to tell her to forget about the money. And I'm not mad anymore. What an astonishing woman.
Here are the pistols. But before we begin, could you please tell me how to use the damn things? I've never even touched one before.
Oh my God! Oh, why does this have to happen to us?
Well, you see, there are several different makes of weapon. You've got your Mortimer, and now that's a special dueling pistol. Percussion action. But what you have here are Smith and Wesson revolvers. Triple action with an extractor and central sights. Beautiful pieces, must have cost at least 90 rubles a pair. Now look. You hold the pistol in your hand like this. What amazing eyes she's got. What a little spitfire.
Like this?
That's it, that's the way. Next, you cock the piece. And you take aim. That's the way. Now, move your head back a little. Stretch out your arm. That's the way. And then, you press your finger on this little thing here. And that's all there is to it. Main thing is, keep your cool and take slow, careful aim. Try not to let your hand shake.
Right. We shouldn't shoot indoors. Let's go outside.
All right, let's go outside. Only I warn you, I intend to shoot in the air.
Oh, that's the last straw. Why?
It's none of your business why.
Are you scared? Is that it?
No, fine. Fine.
No, I mean, wait. No, go away, go away. I hate you. No, I mean, wait. Oh, you got me so mad. My fingers all swollen up from this damn thing. Go. Well, what are you waiting for? Get out of here.
All right, then. Goodbye.
Yes, just go. Where are you going? Go, come on back. Oh, I'm going mad. Oh my God. You stay away from me. Stay away from me.
You are mad? I am mad. I fell in love like a schoolboy. Got down on my knees. I even got goosebumps. I love you. That's all I needed, to fall in love with you. Tomorrow I've got to pay the mortgage. Start cutting hay. And now, you. I will never forgive myself for this.
Get away from me. Get your hands off of me. I hate you. I hate you. I wanna fight. I wanna fight the duel.
All right. Okay, guys, there's something that I could not tell you regarding the bear. Yes, Sandy, I will be explaining that as well. I'll be explaining this. Please note down this importance of Luca's character. We mostly focus on Popova, Smirnov, Nikolaev-like characters, but I feel importance of Luca's character should be noted. Yes. What is the reason Luca's character is important? In many of Anton Chekhov's plays, we find there is kind of working class person, otherwise people. In this also we find working class people presented in the drama. Now, when you compare, contrast Popova, Nikolaev, Smirnov with Luca, as a main objective, we find Anton Chekhov ridicules all these upper class people's behaviors. Popova is ridiculed. Nikolaev is ridiculed, even though he doesn't appear. He's ridiculed. And what about Smirnov? His character is also critically evaluated here. But on the other hand, we find Luca. What's there in Luca's character? Luca may belong to the serfdom, otherwise working class community in Russia. But when you compare and contrast Luca with upper class people, Luca's advice is effective. If you take Luca's words separately, even though Luca speaks very little, Luca's dialogues are very effective, and it does not speak of unnecessary things. Now, if you analyze all the dialogues of other upper class people, you identify they are with, they talk pompously, sometimes they talk unnecessary things. So it's kind of an attitude of Anton Chekhov to upgrade the working class community in the play. The working class community ultimately witness the absurd, otherwise incongruous behaviors of upper class people. So remember, in the play, Luca plays a major role. He contrasts the behavioral patterns of upper class people. He contrasts the words of upper class people. And he contrasts the attitudes as well. If you examine Luca's dialogues at the beginning, how he advises Popova is very realistic. Okay, he realizes that Popova is a dual woman. Her duplicity is understood. He says, why can't you become practical? My wife died, so I turned out to be, I cried perhaps a little time, and after that, I turned into my own business. I rather became a kind of practical man. So when you examine Luca's character, you find more advanced qualities, more effective dialogues, more effective actions rather than the upper class people presented in the story. So there we find Anton Chekhov had a deliberate effort in upgrading working class, serfdom, as I said, serfdom, rather than land earning community. There's undercurrent criticism of the absurd behaviors of upper class people, keeping lower class people, otherwise working class people, in the play. Working class people's behavior is much more, even though they appear very little, their behaviors are much more upgraded than the upper class people's behaviors. So the question that Esandi has sent, more about weaknesses of human nature. Inconsistency. Yes, inconsistency is a human weakness. We all know that, right? What characters are represented as inconsistent characters? Hafsa, can you tolerate a little? We are going to start the vendor of street soon after answering this question session. People send questions that I can't rather let them go. So can you please tolerate? Okay, inconsistency. What are the characters who can be called inconsistent? We find Popova's character is inconsistent. From the beginning, we find she tells something, she does something else. And she's unable to keep up her emotions as well. If you watch the last part of the video, it shows us how strongly that she shows qualities of inconsistency in her character. She asks the person to go, and again he asks the person to come back. Go, come back, go, come back, like that. She suppresses her emotions since she's an upper class woman, but she can't rather forget that she's just a woman. She's also a natural woman with a lot of desires. So she becomes a victim of her own inconsistency. Then what about Smirnov? It's again the tragedy of Smirnov's character. He's inconsistent. Many a time that he says that I'm single, but it seems that he doesn't like to be single. That is why he almost all of a sudden falls in the woman that he started fighting with just a while ago. right? He says that I rejected this number of women. Women rejected me. It again undercurrently showcases that he had the desire of having a woman. He had an attempt of having a woman. It does not mean that he totally rejected women and started being single from the beginning of his life, right? He is unable to keep up to his own steady thoughts, so that he becomes a victim of that. Ultimately, he marries a widow. He starts a relationship, with a widow, and he promises to let the debt go away. Okay, he is going to lose money as well, right? But about Nikolaev, he is inconsistent. That is why the play says that he had different women and he was not with the beautiful wife that he married. He had a beautiful wife. Without satisfying her, that he went out because his thinking pattern was inconsistent. So how are you satisfied with that answer? It's a common human weakness, right? Make sure that you understand that as well. It is a common human weakness. Inconsistency is not a criminal human weakness. We can't punish a person because of inconsistency. But these common human weaknesses can always make people's lives tragic. Okay.